I'd been saving for my wedding and finally hit $40,000. Then my brother's business failed, and my parents demanded I give him the money. I flat out said no. My dad lost it, saying I was selfish, while Mum stayed silent. Next morning, my Silcall's voice shaking. Turns out, the fork scraped against the plate louder than it should have. My father hadn't touched his roast. He just sat there, jaw working like he was chewing words he hadn't said yet. 37,000, he finally said. That's what Marcus needs to keep the doors open. I kept eating. The potatoes were cold, but I didn't care. Did you hear me? I heard you. My mother shifted in her seat. The chair creaked. Nobody else moved. My fiancée, Rachel, had her hand frozen halfway to her wine glass, sensing what I already knew was coming. The bank won't extend his line of credit. He's got 60 days before they start calling in the loans. My father's voice had that edge to it, the one he used when he expected compliance. You've got that wedding fund. Over 40,000 now, isn't it? I set my fork down. Looked at him directly for the first time since we'd sat down for what was supposed to be a nice Sunday dinner. 42, actually. Good. That's more than enough. You can give Marcus 37, keep the rest for yourselves. Weddings don't need to be expensive anyway. He said it like he was solving a math problem. Like the last 4 years of my life, the overtime shifts, the side projects, the freelance work until 2 in the morning, were just numbers in a column he could rearrange. Rachel's fingers found my knee under the table. A small pressure. A question. No. The word landed in the center of the table like something physical. My mother's eyes went wide for just a second before she looked down at her untouched food. My brother Marcus, sitting across from me, had the decency to look uncomfortable. His wife Janine studied the wallpaper like she'd never seen it before. My father blinked. What did you say? I said no. I'm not giving Marcus the money. That's your brother. I know who he is. His business is going under. His family, my father gestured at Janine, at the direction of the room where their 2 kids were watching television, they'll lose everything. The house, everything. That's terrible. I hope he figures something out. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. My father's face went through something I'd seen before, shock, then disbelief, then something darker settling behind his eyes. You selfish little, he caught himself. Took a breath. After everything this family has done for you? I could feel Rachel tensing beside me. She wanted to say something. I squeezed her hand, just once. Not yet. What has this family done for me, exactly? We raised you. Fed you. Kept a roof over your head. You did. Until I was 18. Then I moved out, worked 2 jobs through university, and paid my own way. Which is more than Marcus can say. Marcus flinched like I'd hit him. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. I turned back to my father. You co-signed his first business loan, didn't you? The restaurant? Silence. And when that failed, you remortgaged the house to cover his debts. That was, what, 8 years ago? How do you? I pay attention. I stood up, pushing my chair back slowly. The answer is no. I've worked too hard for too long to hand it over because Marcus made bad decisions again. My father stood too. His hands were shaking, rage or something else, I couldn't tell. If you walk out that door. What? You'll disown me? I almost laughed. You've been treating me like an afterthought for 30 years, Dad. At least make it official. Rachel stood beside me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. You're dead to this family, my father said. His voice was quiet now. Somehow that was worse. You hear me, dead? My mother still hadn't looked up from her plate. Hadn't said a single word. We left. The drive home took 40 minutes and neither of us spoke for the first 20. Rachel kept her hand on my leg, and I kept my eyes on the road, and the silence wasn't uncomfortable exactly. It was just heavy. Full of things that would need to be said eventually but not yet. He really said that, she finally said. Dead to the family. He did. Jesus. I should probably explain how we got here. My brother Marcus is 4 years older than me. Growing up, that gap felt enormous. He was always ahead, always the one doing things first, always the one my parents watched with that particular kind of attention they never quite gave me. First to ride a bike. First to drive a car. First to graduate. First to start a business. First to fail spectacularly, too. But we'll get to that. The thing about being the second child in my family is that you learn early that the resources, emotional, financial, whatever, aren't infinite, and they aren't distributed equally. Marcus got the new clothes, I got his hand-me-downs. Marcus got the car for his 18th birthday, I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. Marcus got his university paid for, I got we just don't have it this time, but you'll figure something out. I'm not bitter about it. That's not quite the right word. Bitter implies you're still waiting for things to change, still hoping someone will notice the imbalance and correct it. I stopped hoping for that a long time ago. What I am is clear-eyed. I see the situation for what it is, and I've built my life accordingly. When I was 22, I got my first real job out of university, entry-level marketing at a mid-sized tech company. The salary was nothing special, but it was mine. That first paycheck, I opened a separate savings account and started putting away whatever I could. $20 here, $50 there. It wasn't much, but it was the beginning of something. By the time I was 25, I'd moved up to a better position, started doing freelance work on the side, and the savings had grown to almost $8,000. I remember the exact number because that's when Marcus called me for the first time in months. "Hey, little brother. Listen, I need a favor." He needed $4,000. Just to float him until his restaurant got back on its feet. He'd pay me back within the month, he swore. Cross his heart. I said no. He called me selfish then, too. First time, but not the last. Funny how that word keeps coming up. The restaurant failed 3 months later. My parents bailed him out with the second mortgage I mentioned. I didn't find out about that until years afterward, when my mother let it slip during a phone call and then pretended she hadn't said anything. 3 years after the restaurant, Marcus started an import business. Furniture from Southeast Asia, high-end stuff, markup margins that looked incredible on paper. My father invested his retirement bonus, $30,000, and my mother cashed in a life insurance policy that had been meant for emergencies. That one lasted 2 years before the supplier relationships fell apart and the warehouse burned down under suspicious circumstances that the insurance company refused to pay out on. Through all of this, I kept working. Kept saving. Kept my head down and my expectations low. By the time I met Rachel, I had almost $20,000 in that account. By the time we got engaged, I'd hit 30. And by the time we'd set a date and started actually planning, I'd crossed 40. $42,317. I checked the balance obsessively, like touching a lucky charm. Every deposit felt like a small victory against something I couldn't quite name. We wanted a nice wedding. Not extravagant, neither of us are extravagant people, but good. A proper venue. A real photographer. Food that didn't come from a buffet line. Rachel had a picture in her head of what she wanted, and I had made a promise to myself years ago that when I found the right person, I wouldn't let them down the way I'd been let down. I was going to keep that promise. The night after the dinner, I didn't sleep well. Rachel curled against my back around 3 a.m., and I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, running through the conversation again and again. Dead to this family. The words should have hurt more than they did. Maybe they would, eventually. But in that moment, what I felt wasn't pain, it was something closer to relief. Like a tension I'd been holding for decades had finally snapped. My phone buzzed twice during the night. I didn't look at it. By morning, there were 7 missed calls from my mother, 4 from Marcus, and a string of texts from numbers I didn't recognize that turned out to be my aunts and uncles, already mobilized in the family group chat I'd been excluded from years ago. The texts were variations on a theme. Your father is heartbroken. How could you do this to your own brother? Family comes first. We're all very disappointed. I deleted them without responding. Rachel made coffee around 7, and we sat at the kitchen table in the pale gray light, not really talking, just being there. She'd taken my side without hesitation, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She'd never seen my family like that. She'd heard the stories, sure, but hearing isn't the same as witnessing. What happens now? She asked. I don't know. I guess we wait. For what? Good question. I didn't have an answer. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. It was Janine, my sister-in-law. Marcus's wife. That's weird, I said. What? Janine's calling me. She never calls me. I almost let it go to voicemail, almost. But something in the persistent buzz made me pick up. Hello? Oh, thank God. Her voice was shaking. Actually shaking, like she'd been crying or was about to start. I didn't know if you'd answer. I thought, after last night. Janine, what's wrong? I need to tell you something. I should have told you last night, but Marcus was right there, and your father, and I couldn't. She was crying now. Quietly, like she was trying to hold it back and failing. Take your breath. What's going on? The business isn't failing. The kitchen went very quiet. Rachel looked up from her coffee. What do you mean? I mean it's not failing. Marcus's import company, it's doing fine. Better than fine. He had his best quarter ever last month. I saw the books. I know what's in the accounts. I sat down slowly. Then why? He's been telling everyone it's going under because he needs cash. Not for the business, for other things. What other things? The pause stretched out. I could hear her breathing, ragged and wet. There's another woman. Has been for 2 years now. He set her up in an apartment across town, bought her a car, promised her all kinds of things. And now she's pregnant, and she's threatening to tell everyone unless he gives her $200,000 to disappear. I couldn't speak. The information was too big, too absurd, it wouldn't fit into any shape I recognized. He thought if he could get money from the family, make it look like a business emergency, he could pay her off and nobody would know. Your parents gave him $50,000 already. Last week. I only found out because I overheard him on the phone. 50,000, I repeated. My parents don't have 50,000. They took out a loan. Against the house again. Rachel was at my shoulder now, her hand on my arm, her face pale with secondhand shock. Janine, why are you telling me this? Because what happened last night wasn't fair. Her voice steadied slightly. You said no, and they called you selfish, and meanwhile Marcus is, he's... She couldn't finish the sentence. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending. Have you told anyone else? No. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. The kids. I can't just... Okay, listen. Don't do anything yet. Let me think about this. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. I should have. It's not your fault, Janine. None of this is your fault. After she hung up, I sat there for a long time, holding the phone like it might explode. Rachel sat down across from me. What was that? I told her everything. Her expression went through about 6 different phases: confusion, disbelief, anger, disgust, before settling on something that looked like cold fury. Your parents mortgaged their house again. For him. To pay off his mistress. That's what she said. And they had the nerve to call you selfish. Yeah. She stood up, paced to the window, turned back. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? The one that had been forming in my chest since Janine started talking, taking shape like something solid and heavy. I could tell my parents. Blow the whole thing open right now. Watch Marcus's carefully constructed lie collapse around him. Or I could stay out of it. Walk away from the whole mess and let them figure it out themselves. It wasn't my responsibility. I didn't know anyone anything. Or... I need to make some calls, I said. Here's something about being the overlooked child: you watch. You learn. You notice things that other people miss because they're too busy being seen. I knew my family's finances better than they did. Not because anyone told me, they didn't, but because I'd been paying attention for years. I knew that my parents' house had been remortgaged 3 times. I knew that my father's pension was smaller than he let on, that my mother's part-time bookkeeping work barely covered their utilities. I knew that Marcus's business expenses were suspicious: too many client dinners, too many travel costs, because I'd helped Janine set up their accounting software 4 years ago and never lost access. I know. That sounds calculating. Maybe it was. But when you grow up being told there's never enough while watching someone else take more than their share, you learn to keep your own records. Over the next 3 days, I didn't contact my family at all. The texts and calls kept coming, angrier now, more desperate, but I let them pile up unanswered. I had other things to do. First, I verified what Janine had told me. The business accounts weren't hard to access. Marcus had never changed the passwords, probably never even thought about it. She was right. Revenue was strong. Cash flow was healthy. The failing business story was pure fabrication. Second, I traced the $50,000 my parents had given him. It came from a home equity line of credit, the application for which I found in the cloud backup my mother accidentally shared with me 2 years ago when she was trying to figure out how to use Google Drive. They'd taken out $70,000 total. Marcus had received $50,000, the other $20,000 had gone to business operating expenses that looked a lot like monthly payments to an apartment across town. Third, I found the woman. Her name was Lisa. She had a social media presence that wasn't exactly discreet: lots of photos from restaurants Marcus had expensed, vacation shots that matched his business trips, and most recently, an ultrasound image with a caption about new beginnings. By the time I was done, I had a file: timestamps, receipts, screenshots. The kind of paper trail that would be impossible to explain away. I sat with it for a full day before deciding what to do. You could just send it to them anonymously, Rachel said. We were lying in bed, both of us staring at the ceiling. Drop the file in their inbox and walk away. I could. But you're not going to. Know why? I thought about it for a while. The house was quiet. Outside, a car went past, headlights sweeping across the wall. Because anonymous doesn't fix anything. They'll find a way to excuse it. They always do. They'll blame the messenger, blame circumstances, blame everyone except Marcus. He'll cry, he'll apologize, he'll promise to do better. And 6 months from now, it'll be something else. So what's the alternative? I make sure they can't look away. She was quiet for a moment. Then, that's going to cause a lot of damage. I know. To everyone. Including people who don't deserve it, Janine. The kids. I know. And you're okay with that? I turned to look at her. In the dim light, her face was unreadable. I'm not okay with any of this. But I spent 30 years being the one who absorbed the damage so everyone else could pretend things were fine. I gave up things, opportunities. I ate shit at that table and smiled and said thank you. And the one time I say no, the one time I stand up for myself, I'm dead to them. I sat up. The anger was there now, close to the surface, but controlled, focused. They made their choice. They picked Marcus. They've always picked Marcus. So now they can have him. All of him. The real version. And they can deal with the consequences together. Rachel sat up too. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she put her hand on my face, turned me toward her, and kissed me. Whatever you decide, she said. I'm with you. My parents' anniversary was the following Saturday. 40 years. The whole extended family was gathering at their house, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors who'd known them for decades. It was supposed to be a celebration. I hadn't been invited. That was fine. I wasn't planning to come as a guest. I arrived an hour before the party was scheduled to start, while my mother was still arranging flowers and my father was setting up tables in the backyard. They didn't see me pull up. Didn't hear me come in through the side door that had never locked properly. Marcus was in the kitchen, helping himself to the shrimp cocktail. He froze when he saw me. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Dad said you weren't welcome. I know what Dad said. I also know why you needed that money. The color drained from his face. It happened fast, there 1 second, gone the next, like someone had pulled a plug. I don't know what you're talking about. Lisa. The apartment. The pregnancy. The $200,000 to make it go away. I kept my voice calm, conversational. Want me to keep going, or do you want to step outside and have this conversation privately? He looked around the kitchen like he was searching for an exit. There wasn't one. Outside. Now. We ended up in the garage, between my father's workbench and the shelves of paint cans that had been there since I was 12. The concrete floor was cold even through my shoes. Marcus paced like a trapped animal. How do you know about this? Does it matter? It was Janine, wasn't it? That bitch. Watch it. He stopped. Looked at me. For a moment, something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, of how far apart we drifted. What do you want? He asked. Money? Is that what this is about? I laughed. Actually laughed. You think I'm here to blackmail you? Then what? I'm here to give you a choice. Option 1. You walk back into that house, you sit down with Mom and Dad before the guests arrive, and you tell them the truth. All of it. The affair, the pregnancy, the money, the lies, everything. Are you insane? That would destroy them. Maybe. But it would come from you. That counts for something. And option 2? I took out my phone. Pulled up the file. Screenshots, documents, all of it laid out in order. Option 2 is I send this to everyone. The whole family. Right now. During the party. And they learn about it the same way I did, piece by piece, with no way to pretend it isn't real. He stared at the screen. His hands were shaking. You wouldn't. I would. I really, really would. The difference is, and this is important, Marcus, so listen carefully, the difference is that option 1 gives you a chance to control the narrative. To apologize. To maybe, possibly, salvage something. Option 2 takes that away. Why are you doing this? Because last Sunday, you sat there and let Dad call me selfish. Let him say I was dead to the family. And you knew, that the whole thing was a lie. That you were using everyone, including me, to cover up your own mess. I stepped closer. Close enough that he had to look at me. I don't care about the money. I never cared about the money. But you let them burn the last bridge I had with this family over a lie. And now you're going to fix it. I can't. You have 10 minutes. I walked back toward the house. Behind me, I heard something that might have been a sob, might have been a curse. I didn't turn around. 10 minutes later, I was standing in the backyard, watching through the kitchen window as Marcus sat down with our parents at the dining room table. My mother's face was already crumpling as he spoke. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the shape of them in the way her hands flew to her mouth. My father stood up. Sat down. Stood up again. He looked like he'd been shot. I stayed outside. This wasn't my scene. Not yet. The guests started arriving while they were still in there. My Aunt Carol saw me first, did a double take, then hurried inside to investigate the source of the commotion. Within 20 minutes, the party had transformed into something else entirely. Knots of people whispering, glancing toward the closed kitchen door, pretending not to hear my mother's wailing. Marcus emerged eventually. His face was red, his eyes swollen. He walked straight past me without a word, got in his car, and drove away. I found my parents still at the dining room table. My mother was crying. My father was just sitting, staring at nothing. "You knew," he said when he saw me. "Not a question." "I found out a few days ago." "And you didn't tell us." "I told Marcus to tell you himself." My mother looked up. Her makeup was ruined, her face a mess of tears and something else, devastation, maybe, or shame. How could he do this? How could he, all those years, the money? She couldn't finish. My father put his hand on hers, but he was still looking at me. "You forced his hand." "Yes, why?" I thought about all the things I could say. The years of neglect. The favoritism. The way they'd taken his side without question, again and again, while I scraped and saved and asked for nothing. "Because you deserve to know the truth," I said finally. "And because I was tired of being the only one who saw it." Something shifted in my father's face. It wasn't forgiveness, we were a long way from that. But it wasn't hostility either. "The money we gave him," my mother said. "The loans. The mortgage. Gone. Most of it went to the other woman." She made a sound like something breaking. I didn't stay much longer after that. There was nothing left to say. The guests had mostly filtered out by then, sensing that whatever celebration this was supposed to be had curdled into something unrecoverable. I drove home. Rachel was waiting with takeout and a bottle of wine. "How'd it go?" "About as well as you'd expect." She handed me a glass. "What happens now?" What happened now was this. Marcus and Janine separated 2 weeks later. She'd already been halfway out the door. The revelation just gave her permission to leave. She took the kids and moved in with her sister. The divorce proceedings started shortly after. Lisa, the other woman, got her money eventually, not $200,000, but enough. Marcus sold everything he could, including the business he'd spent years building. Last I heard, he was renting a one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town and working for someone else for the first time in a decade. My parents' house went on the market the following month. They couldn't keep up with the payments, too much debt piled on debt, too many years of propping up a son who kept falling. They moved into a smaller place, a rental in a neighborhood they'd never wanted to live in. My mother called me about 6 weeks after the party. The conversation was awkward, stilted, both of us feeling around the edges of something we didn't have words for. "Your father won't admit it," she said at one point, "but he knows you were right. About Marcus. About all of it. Does that change anything?" A long pause. "I don't know, maybe. It's going to take time. I'm not going anywhere." "I know." It wasn't much. But it was something. Rachel and I got married the following spring. Small ceremony. Good food. A proper photographer. Everything we'd planned, everything we'd saved for. My parents came. They sat in the second row, looking older than I remembered, diminished somehow. My father shook my hand afterward and said something about being proud of me. My mother cried, but for different reasons this time. Marcus wasn't there. We hadn't spoken since the day he drove away from the party, and I wasn't sure we ever would again. Some bridges, once burned, don't rebuild. But that wasn't the point. The point was that I kept my promise, to Rachel, and to myself. I'd built something with my own hands, from nothing, and nobody had taken it from me. The wedding cost just under $32,000. When it was done, I checked the savings account out of habit. There was still $10,000 left. I started putting money in again the following week. $20 here. $50 there. No particular goal in mind. Just the habit. Just the practice of building something that was mine. Rachel caught me doing it once, late at night, transferring another small amount from checking to savings. "What's that for?" "I don't know yet." She smiled. Put her hand on my shoulder. Went back to bed. I stayed up a little longer, watching the numbers. Then I closed the laptop and followed her. The last time I drove past my parents' old house was about a year after everything happened. New family living there now. I could see toys in the yard, a minivan in the driveway. They'd painted the front door a different color. I didn't slow down. Didn't stop. Just kept driving.